is finishing courses inside of like in 3 months. So it's really dependent upon the time that, if you're studying in a group, it's dependent upon the time that the group can put into it. But again, it's developed in such a way for independent study that as much time as you have, that's how much time you can put into it. I mean, we've had, inside of 2 months, I've had an individual finish. But it's, again, it's all dependent upon how much the student, how much time that they can put in. See, there's nothing said that, okay, when you can take the exam as early as you like. Just you're risking, you know, you don't want to go so fast that, you know, it's like, phew, all right, yeah, I read through it. You know, but I tell for sharp individuals, I tell you, like, it's not complicated. The way that it's laid out, particularly in partnership with the study packet that's contained in here at the end of each chapter or unit, it walks you through the key elements, the key points of that chapter or of that unit. So it doesn't leave you till the end, and you're asking yourself, you know, do I know the right things? Because after each unit, it walks you through and asks you some interactive questions, and if you can. If you're taking your time to properly walk through those interactive questions, by the end of it, you've been studying the right things. The great thing about it is streamlined. It doesn't get you off on you know, tangents here and there where you think, oh, is that important? Should I know that for the exam? Because what's in here, and the way that the study packet kind of brings you back to focus as to you know, to know this element of that chapter, to know this point, to know this. It does a wonderful job at keeping you focused as to what to remember, to what to know, to what to, you know, really lay in your heart. Because I know that, you know, when you can get with some stuff, there's so much there, you can get off on tangents and off on things that are like great stuff, but it ends up, you don't even see it on the exam. It's like, oh, I just, you know, studied half a day for that, you know, and there's nothing there. You won't have that. You won't have that with this, because the study packet, it brings you back to focus as to what are the key elements, what are the key moments and points and issues of that chapter or unit. And so you use that in conjunction with your studying, and by the end of it, you're good. You're good. Mm-hmm.
I have seen this from level 1, level 2, and advanced level. I have to go through all of this to get a diploma, or I can choose?
Yes. We recommend that you start level 1 and you go through. Particularly since the Ministerial Studies Diploma has, what's unique to that diploma program are 3 levels, beginner, intermediate, and advanced internship programs, where you're actually in partnership with your pastor, a recognized leader in church leadership, that you're going through the processes in church life. Much like, I mean, there's opportunities of learning how to, you know, learning situations in the church, whether it's money management, whether it's marriages and burials, and even, you know, practical aspects of church ministry, of what a pastor would do. And so there's this partnership with the internship. The internships are the one course that there's not a service learning requirement. Instead, the pastor, the leader, has his own manual, and in that manual, has basically a report sheet on the student that has to be submitted. Instead of a service learning requirement, there is the pastor or leader submits a form that gives feedback upon the student that took that course.
That for each student?
Yes. Yeah, that would be in that course. But that is typically a course that we save till nearing the end of each level. And that's typically why I kind of have it listed there at the bottom. Beginning ministerial internship, you've got intermediate. Typically, we like everybody to walk through the other things first.
Yes, in terms of grades, is there any specific average do you require to get a grade?
Yes. Again, this standard is set by Global University. 70% is a pass. 69 is unsatisfactory. You don't get a credit.
Another question.
Yes.
I want just to know if a global university doesn't offer some bursaries.
Offer what?
Bursaries.
Scholarships.
Oh.
Not bus, bursaries.
Oh, there's...
Oh, versus. That's a good question. I could. I know that as I was kind of sharing a bit earlier, we're in the process of trying to develop that kind of idea. I'll inquire about that because I don't know offhand. I know it's it's a unique situation because this really is an online school. There may be a different sort of situation that's involved than your typical traditional campus style format of learning. But I will I'll write that down so that it reminds me to look into it. Anything else?
Another question.
In the time of graduation, it's an online courses. What happened when we complete the course? Like when the course is done, what happened in the graduation period?
You're talking about just one course being done, or are you talking about
diploma? The diploma level.
Oh, okay. The whole. Well, it all. The great thing, it all depends. See, there's the process. Once the requirements are met, you've passed all the courses, met the requirements. What we tend to do, obviously, because see, this is developed to be online course, being a correspondence type of teaching, and so they would typically, I mean, what Global University does, they just make the once they've crossed their T's and dotted their I's and made sure everything's fine, they ship the diploma out to the student. Now, in our case, because it's we're facilitating this, that diploma would come to us, and then, of course, there'd be the opportunity to bring honor where honor is due at that time. See, you're not set to a as I was saying earlier about semesters or anything like that, and so you know, we've got you can have students graduating at any moment, at any time. You don't have to necessarily wait till, say, springtime or what have you, but it's immediate. just like you can start a course at any time. You don't have to even wait till one course is done before you start another one, although it's not, you know, always the best to get yourself too locked up in too many things. But in a group setting, I know with the one training center that we have in Vancouver, in particular, we were able to honor a handful of students that had just completed the level 1 of the Ministerial Studies diploma. And typically what we do is we issue certificates for the completion of each level for the Ministerial Studies diploma. And from there, obviously, ultimately, when all 3 levels are completed, then there is the issuing of the diploma. What worked well in Vancouver was that their completing of level 1 coincided with a conference that was happening in that area, and so we were able to make our way over there for the conference and make a presentation in front of the rest of the other pastors that were there for these students that had completed this level 1, and so that was a nice moment. But there's nothing official, but that's pretty much the process. Once courses are completed, the requirements are met. It's about a 2-week process through the whole diploma issuing, and then it's done. How the delivery of that diploma takes place is all kind of dependent upon the situation. If we got a training center, we'd love to make a big deal of it, you know, because I mean it's a significant thing, and it does carry some weight.
Once we start the course, are we qualified to get scholarship from the global university?
Yes. Perhaps scholarship wouldn't be the proper term. But each one of these courses, the requirement is a minimum grade of 80% for any of these ministerial studies courses, and they represent a 1-to-1 correlation with any what is the electives course in the undergraduate program. So you have a credit in Synoptic Gospels, and you got 85%. That qualifies you. You could use that credit as a credit towards an elective under the undergraduate studies program. Now, because they offer bachelor degrees and they offer master's degrees there, particularly under the undergraduate is I believe is a bachelor's. Yes, so these courses are recognized through Global University. So if an individual did want to perhaps even go to a higher level, very easy. Particularly since you're already in the system, it can happen.
Yeah,
Go ahead.
Okay. Some of students are just French speaking.
Oh yes.
So I don't know if you talk about it.
We it is a process we're working through. At this time, we only have these courses available in English. Being that they've originally come from the States, there actually is 2 languages, English and Spanish. But we haven't had the time yet, but it is something that we brought up to our own board of directors for our ministry here, particular for Canada, knowing that we do have there is the need of French in particular, I mean, and then we can, because our primary mandate initially had to do with Aboriginal people and First Nations. There's over 60 languages or dialects that they speak, and everybody wants it in their own language as well. So, you know, there can be a fairly steep mountain to climb, but we are, it is one of the things we are looking to address. But as I had made mention to your pastor, that, excuse me, dependent upon the facilitator, if they are fluent, they are free to make this as understandable as possible. None of these courses come with, say, like PowerPoints or overheads, you know, but we've had teachers that have done this enough that they've, in their setting, that they've, you know, kind of developed some teaching aids and some teaching helps to kind of, you know, to walk through that and to help elevate, you know, the driving home of a certain point or what have you. And we've had some that deal perhaps in, you know, in a language that's a little more comfortable with the students that, you know, that they're teaching. So, you know, it is, you know, I told Pastor Faustini, if he can interpret it, then go ahead.
And I think last time you said about the exam too, and you said that the exam is in multiple choices. So
yes,
if someone
multiple
understands
choice. It's even you can even take the exam orally, if that is an issue for the student, where perhaps because I know, I mean, I ministered cross-culturally for over 15 years with the First Nations and the Inuit in Canada's north here. And it is an issue, even though they could speak English, their comprehension in reading English was so much lower, and it's just their concept of how to formulate, it just took so much effort, and they weren't able to flow. They knew this, they knew the things, they knew the material, but it was difficult for them to write it out in English. And so they found, and they're doing this even in trade schools now, that, you know, people learning to be plumbers and you know, all different kinds of trades, that if they had an instructor that could ask them the question, interpret the question into their language, and then that they could answer the question, that they were doing wonderfully. But having to come to operate completely in English, even though technically they could speak English and technically they could read English, it was so much effort there that they were struggling in making the right answers, even though they really knew it. They knew this stuff. And so to take that equation out, you're able to take the exam orally. So if there is a situation where somebody perhaps maybe is better in French, the instructor person can work with them, certainly even in the exam, to where the exam can be explained to them in their language. They can respond accordingly, and then the appropriate answer can be put down. Yes?
Yes, I would like to know the way you're going to be teaching this, actually. Like, is it going to be like a class setting, or like we have a professor there and then start teaching like the students here, or is this going to be like an independent course? Or I would like to know about that.
Okay. Yes. All that you mentioned, it can happen. This is the thing.
All the above.
Yes, really, all of the above is available. As you're getting the sense, this course is initially written for independent study. It can be done completely all by yourself. There's no problem for that. Global University has created this curriculum in such a way that you don't need a qualified teacher in order to do this course and to do it well. We've found, however, obviously, the best times of learning and understanding and teaching is when you have a group setting. A combination of both is great, where there's an opportunity for independent study. Obviously, particularly, you know, if you're not meeting every day, and I want to tell you, most of our students don't. In our training centers, they don't meet every day. At most, maybe twice, maybe 3 times a week that they've gotten together. But one time for sure, that was extended at least an hour, hour and a half, where they're together and they do. But again, see, this is, it's completely up to the situation. We're dependent upon the students, how much time they have. I mean, we're talking about continuing education for adults that have jobs, or they've got work requirements or home requirements or what have you, and so it's set up in such a way that you can meet as little or as much as you'd like. You may find that in a situation like this, where some can meet together more often, and we may find that in a situation like this here, it may not be just one group. You may have a group that is doing it independently, perhaps online, but there'd be the opportunity to come together, for a group session, depending on the pace of everybody and where everybody is. That's where you're going to. That's where we have to kind of work some things out. But this can work with just a facilitator who could even be, because we have this happening. We have students who are acting as the facilitator, but they're students themselves. And so they just get together and they kind of, they go through, a unit or a chapter together, but most of their study obviously is done independently. But they get together to just kind of chat about, kind of what did you think of that issue, and kind of work through some things that way. Your best scenario is when you've got a teacher who's right at your disposal and just, there you go, and lets it all out of his heart or her heart and pours in. But this was developed for those situations that don't exist like that, because not everybody has that opportunity to sit with, under the teaching of someone. In this situation here, as I said, I'm only a couple hours away, depending on how something might work out. I'm available, certainly throughout the process. I'd have to look at if certainly in the beginning, we could look at doing something where I'd be available for once a week. Coming certainly in the beginning to get things rolling, to get allow everybody to have a sense and a feel as to how we can progress. But the curriculum really is designed to teach itself. If you give the time to it, it happens naturally. It was developed that way because not everybody has access to a teacher that they can just sit down in front of and just absorb and soak in. Unfortunately, not everybody has that opportunity, and so this was developed for that lack.
It's like a do it for you. It's like a do it yourself.
Yes. Yeah. And what the teacher facilitator can do is kind of augment that and increase the learning and the understanding. Yes, yeah. And there's an opportunity there to bounce some questions off, and the facilitator or the teacher can help kind of direct the conversation so that you're progressing and you're moving on, so that you get to a point so that you don't spend 2 hours and realize, okay, we only covered a couple of things and now we're getting behind. but you know, we have students.